There's $1 million opportunities in this business, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, everybody. So today we have Mr. David Duford. It's an honor and pleasure to have you as one aspiring YouTube creator, to have you on my channel. There's probably not a single person who looks for at least final expense or life insurance stuff on YouTube who does not see your videos. Without further ado, David, if this is someone's first time seeing you, I'd love you to introduce yourself, man.
Sure. David Duford's my name. I got in the business back in 2011 out of a failing personal training business by accident. I was desperate for work, so what would one do who's desperate? They sell insurance, right? So stumbled across Final Expense, liked what I saw. It's pretty much a straightforward product. It's just a matter of just seeing the people, and like that, I always like to work. And got into the business, did well, then started thinking too hard about things, distracted, got out of the business because of my own personal failure, and then got back in a second time after getting my first real job and started to actually get some consistent success going back to the fundamentals. From there, opened an agency, recruited agents, then stumbled across YouTube, got it into my thick skull to give as much away freely as possible on YouTube as a way to build a brand. And I've been executing on that strategy ever since. I've recruited over 3,000 people in the Final Expense, Medicare annuity, and ACA space.
Wow.
And I just continue to go to work every day doing the same thing I've always done, really, for the past 5 or 6 years.
Awesome, man. That's so cool. One thing that really stuck out to me on there is that I've found that moving forward, or a lot of the most successful people I've seen in business really give away a lot. And I know there's usually a group of people that says, don't give away a lot. Then there's a group of people who give a ton away. And I follow Grant Cardone, and he's always like, give it away, give it away, give it away. At what point did you realize that that was the better route for you to go?
I was like everybody else building an agency. It's like, okay, I've got a great product. It's a great system, right? It can provide you freedom from the typical corporate grind and run your own business, entrepreneurship. But the question, like it is in selling insurance, well, where do you find good prospects to join your agency, right? And, I did some stuff, paid for some marketing like anybody else did. But back in 2014, 2015 was, YouTube had been around for a while, but it became obvious that YouTube had a different impact on people than, say, Google search or even Facebook did.
Yeah.
What YouTube provides, as you've discovered, is the ability to create a celebrity-like persona, an influence, but like not actually be famous, right? Like in your
Yeah.
little niche, like people know, like, and trust you. They get this opportunity to do this at scale where you don't have to manually create relationships in the time that it takes to do this. By the time they talk to you, they like you and they already trust you, and they're just like order taking in a sense from a recruiting standpoint. For me, what I realized, and I didn't believe this at first, is I saw a competitor in the business do this, and he gave away some really compelling training, and I thought, why would he be so stupid to give away his stuff for free? Doesn't he want to reserve that for his agents? Don't the agents get mad for giving that away for free? That was like the devil on my shoulder saying that. But then the angel was like, that's actually the best thing, because truly information is a commodity. It's not so much the information that makes the difference. A lot of people think that it is, but it's not the information on its own. It's what you do with it. It's the execution of
Correct.
that. And so for me, it was, well, I'm just going to give pretty much everything away. And I wasn't completely 100% comfortable with that in the beginning when I started, but as over time, I certainly did. And the outcome has been just magnanimous. I've grown a brand that I never really intentionally tried to, just by giving away what I thought would be useful and helpful without anything in expectation in return. But, of course, what I've gotten back in return has just trumped any of my expectations. And it goes back to that ultimate principle. You've got to help first before you can have people give to you. And if you really stay true to that principle in the context of what we do here, it's incredible, because most people just won't think that way. They think their mousetrap's better than somebody else's. They think that, it's such a secret sauce thing when there really isn't such a thing. It's the execution of the fundamentals that's a secret sauce. And those people won't ever get traction like you or me. If you're doing the fundamentals and you're helping people truly in your heart, it's just a matter of time. and you're going to build something up more incredible you could ever imagine.
No, I totally agree, man. And I think what happens too is as you give away this information, you become like a pinnacle in the industry, right? Like, so people naturally want to follow people that produce results and that show that they're an expert, right? People defer to experts. So we have this appearance of an expert sometimes on YouTube, like you said, where people see it's easy for you to develop that, have that image there of the expert. And like for me, there are plenty of people who are going to be more talented and more knowledgeable in everything than me in the industry. But if someone doesn't know them, it's hard to create that image. So that's awesome, man. I feel like you give it away, and then people say, hey, you know what? This guy knows his stuff. This is probably someone that I'd like to work with because I'm just learning so much from him. And even if they're applying it on their own, I think people are just gravitate towards that a little bit too, to want to work with someone from that.
And it's interesting, there's no committee that decides that you can lead from the front. It's kind of interesting, it's like you have to make that personal decision. I'm going to be something. I'm going to lead. I'm going to, provide a pathway or, direct, from a content standpoint and help. But there's nobody out there that's, saying that or going to validate you. You're afraid. I don't know about you, but, everybody, I think, in the beginning is afraid, well, what if people say something or what if they judge me this way? It's like, who gives a shit? If you go out there and you have something to give and it's helpful, you can't be a fraud about it. Now that you will be fleshed out by the public. I mean, that becomes
for
apparent
sure.
over time. But if you're consistent in your delivery, like you just kind of become that, without anybody voting you to be, right? Because I'm not the best agent either. I was always a good agent. I was never the best. I know plenty of agents are better than me. So it's like the things, if there's somebody out there that's worried about doing content of any kind, like the barrier to entry is up here more than anywhere else.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I don't know if you've generated content similar way, but I just kind of look through what my agents deal with sometimes on a day-to-day basis. And then be like, hey, that would be a good idea to make a video on, because I'm sure there's someone else, in my little cave of my, my pack. I'm sure there's other people out there going through the same thing. So is that kind of what you do for kind of thinking ideas of content creation, or you just?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like, so my perspective is like, I've done like 2,000 of these videos now, right?
Yeah, it's impressive.
After a couple hundred, you're like, what do I talk about now? It's like, haven't I exhausted everything? I can tell you, like, first of all, you can take an angle on content and slice it 5 different ways, and you should do that if you ever find something ranks really well, like, and it's like, oh, there's some interest in that, like if objection handling or like your video, like world traveling or whatever it was with selling insurance, like there's something there, and you can slice that thing different ways, and maybe some things work out, maybe some things don't, but like you got to be able to build on different levels inside of the content. But yeah, I mean, like, going into Facebook groups or the insurance forum or Reddit and looking for insurance, final expense, or even sales, posts on different questions people have is a great source of inspiration. Because again, it's I think the most difficult thing for content creators is how do you stay consistent with production? Because it's easy to come up with, 10, 15, 20 different ideas, but thousands, it's, you got to find places to kind of tell you what to think and then take that as inspiration.
Yeah, for sure. And when I look down, by the way, Dave, I'm just taking notes from our meeting here so I can have a reference in the future if I want to jump back on. I'm not like texting or anything like that. Cool. So who in this business had the biggest or who like, if you could think of like one person who's had the biggest influence on your growth in this industry, or maybe as a person in general, who would it be?
I'll give you 2, or 3. There's a couple. I'll try to. Everybody kind of has a different impact. John Duggar was a guy that in 2011 I saw his posts on the insurance forum. John Duggar's an old school agent. He's crushed it, always done very well. But seeing his post about the final expense business brought it really to reality, like what the possibilities this business is. So I thank him for bringing me into it, because I was like, if that guy can do it, why couldn't I, right?
Yeah.
To a larger extent, I think people even like Sean Mike or A.L. Williams, people who think extremely big that have really upended the business in a way that I think very few organizations have out there. I mean, it's been incredible to see the growth of FFL. It's
Insane.
incredible. It's been insane. And I think what it goes to show you is like 5 years ago, we thought there was big competition and we thought there was a lot of people selling insurance. But what FFL done is with their massive, whether you love them or hate them is not the point, but what they've done in the industry to bring in people who have no experience to sell and have brought in this whole new slew of people and prospects to help them with insurance. It's incredible how big something like what you and I are doing on the insurance sales can really become if you have really no upper limit to your level of thinking. And I thank Sean for that sincerely. And Art Williams is the same way with back in the 80s when he started A.L. Williams Company, which turned into Primerica. Again, love Primerica or hate Primerica.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not the point. I mean, they had like 250,000 plus agents in like the late 80s filling up like stadiums. And it's incredible the amount and the height of how big this business can really become with proper leadership and vision. And it challenges all. If you're sincere about this and you look at this, it's a challenge to look at that and be like, wow, that's big thinking. And that's how big this thing could be if you have that capability to think that big too and take massive action.
Cool, man. I love that. That's huge. I've thought about that too, and I've talked about Primerica and FFL and these other large IMOs or whatever it is, FMO IMO in my in my videos, and I've said the same thing. Love them or hate them. Like you can't deny like the numbers and the volume and just like I think it is pretty incredible. So if someone watching this right now is a new agent, I want to make sure that they're not part of the 90% who won't be watching these videos anymore in a year. So if someone wants to, if you do get a few percent of that 10% who wants to feel like grow to that size, and you got someone who wants to get to a point where they scale and build an agency, what advice would you give to someone that? And then what we'll do is we'll say, what advice would you give to someone who kind of want just getting into the sales side of it and focus on growing the sales? But what advice would you give to someone who's coming in because I got into the business and I didn't really want to sell forever. I wanted to grow a business. That was like my intention. So
Sure.
What do you give to someone with that mindset? What advice?
Yeah, so make sure you really want to do this. As with anything in life, there's good and bad, right? Adult babysitting time, right? So, that's what agency building can be if you're not deliberate in how you build and who you choose to work with you, right? So agency building can be the best thing ever. It can be the biggest financial disaster of your life. The big thing that you take on as an agency owner in most contexts is co-signing your downline's debt. And one agent who runs roughshod, who doesn't care about committing white-collar crime, can cost you. Like, for example, I've lost 2 agents who were just screwballs, for lack of a better word. They cost me $35,000 so far this year. All right, that's unusually high for me. I've heard of in the business. I had one guy I talked to from a large MLM. He had $70,000 in chargeback from one particular company, and then another one with one carrier. This agent accumulated $250,000 in chargeback debt, which is it's insane. One agent did this much white collar crime, but that takes out pretty much everybody if that happens. And that's one person, not to mention the little 500 chargebacks here and there. So really ask yourself if you're willing to take on that stress, right? If you are, first of all, don't stop selling. That's probably the biggest piece of advice I could give you if you insist on continuing. You got to keep your cash flow coming in because you got to take care of your bills with your sales plus some of the chargeback debt that comes up. Second of all, on top of that, make sure you pick people who have, I don't hire on resume. I hire on like character traits. I could care less. I don't know about you. I never look at resumes. Some people
I don't even look at it.
Send them to me. I'm like, your resume is the best. It's the best presentation of you on the best day. And it's usually ghost written by a professional. So it's full of crap in my mind. So I don't even bother to read them. I want to know the person and the personality and the character because that's all I need to craft somebody to help them become top producers. So make sure you have some strategy in mind for that. And the last thing is that At the end of the day, all recruiting is selling on steroids. It's a numbers game on steroids. I think you had said this at some point, and I do agree in one of the pieces of content. Training matters, support matters. I mean, all that stuff is vital. But at some level, not everybody's going to survive this, even if you give them everything that they need, because where they are in their life or who they are as a person, they just might not be right for it. So you have to have some scalability in your process to find people. Because some people won't make it or their circumstances change. And then anyways, there's always safety in numbers. So don't get, one is the loneliest number in business. Don't think that just one or two people are all you need to make it in the agency building business. You need to build a large agency and bring in lots of people and scale that so that you have good producers. And if things change, you've got other good producers. You've got some okay producers. Maybe they sell a policy or two every once in a while, but that's money that pays the bills. And if you have a lot of them, that's a good thing. So there's safety in numbers. So you definitely want a process that recruits to you a lot of people, and hopefully a process to train them. That's, of course, important.
Yeah, for sure. Totally agree. And, it doesn't the sales side is in numbers, and also, too, I've noticed the admin side. It's like I have assistants for recruiting and stuff like that. And it's like I learned that the hard way, that like when I started, I'm like, okay, I'm going to hire an assistant. And then it would be like the work would get done for a month or two, and then like 2 or 3 months of like lazy, nothing gets done. So then I was like, I found it actually cheaper for me to have two, because I would make more money, because it was like, even though I was paying more, it didn't go time with work not being done. So it goes on that side too, guys. And also, if you do go to scale and build a big agency, you're going to have to staff up too. Like, it's not just going to be you handling like at least for me, it was difficult to do that. Maybe you handle everything completely on your end, but I'd imagine maybe had some sort of help.
I don't have any employees. I'm in a unique position. My upline provides the admin side. So if you took away some of the elements here, I'd have a couple of contracting people, probably full-time / part-time.
Yeah,
I'd have a couple of onboarding people. I probably work with at any given time a half dozen VAs on different projects, like email campaigns. So yeah, absolutely. You're going to have to outsource some of this stuff.
Yeah, I have some VAs, and then for us as well, we have some back office admin stuff, really for like interviews. Cool thing about I actually the chargeback thing. Anybody listen to this too? I had about $70,000 in chargebacks my first year building an agency, telesales, because telesales the chargebacks are a lot higher.
Yeah.
So fortunately, the IMO with now covers downline roll up debt, so it's a pretty cool thing from a building standpoint. Now, what would you give for advice to someone who is just getting into the sales aspect of it? Like, what have you noticed is that a couple top traits of successful new agents? Like when someone comes in, and usually, I mean, people can talk the talk, but within 30 days, what do you recognize when you're like, man, this guy or this girl's got it?
So I've to put this in context, I've recruited over 3,000 people, right? I've seen people who are successful from other industries at the peak of their business fail miserably. And likewise, I've seen burger flippers who are in their 20s come in and crush it better than, the vets of the business. And I say all this because I don't know if ABC agent, whoever they are, from that front end is really going to be successful. I've been surprised enough that I don't even bother to decide, like, oh, that one's good. I might feel that way, but I really just, my mindset's like, well, okay, we're going to give them the thing. We're going to wait and see. We'll see what happens. We're going to treat them just the same as anybody else. I just don't know. Now, with that said, I absolutely have processes in place, and every agency owner should, to figure out if somebody's do or die. Because I ain't got no time to waste on people who are aggressively getting ready, perfectionists, that never pull the trigger but want to know everything before they do it. This is a ready, fire, aim business, right? And what I've set up and what I tell people, and this is kind of my clarifier, I guess you could say, is you got to make a sale in your first week. That is the goal. If you can't make a sale in your first week in this business, this isn't for you. Assuming you've done everything you should have to practice and prepare, etc. If you can't make a sale, please go somewhere else. Maybe it's me. Might be me. Maybe another agency is better. But this is a business where you have to get results quickly. That's a good thing. It's not like a restaurant that takes a year to break even or anything. But
Exactly.
that's what I'm looking for is people to take the horse by the reins, apply themselves, ask me questions. Don't be a bitch or a complainer. Go out there and work, right? Like, you understand it's okay not to know everything, that, you're not going to know everything till you do the thing, right? Tiger Woods wasn't Tiger Woods right when he started golfing the first time. I'm sure it took some
Yeah.
time to practice and get better. And that's a person at the top caliber of the game. So you just have to have that humility and that ability to have that leap of faith and to do the work ethic, and while not complaining too much.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And I think if anybody who's new here, if you if you get leads and you follow exactly what your upline, assuming they've made sales themselves, exactly what they tell you to do, there's really no reason why you shouldn't make a sale and why you can't make a sale your first week. And when I started, I literally, the first leads I got, they were Facebook leads. I literally went and knocked on everyone's door and I made a sale my first day because you just go through, put them in the app, and it's almost impossible not to make a sale if you knock on 30 doors in a day. It's like really, really, some people like it's a numbers game too with that. So cool. So Dave, what do you have? What are your plans for the future, man? Like, what are I know you have a large agency now. Do you have any specific goals that you're looking to accomplish moving forward? What's that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember talking to crap. Now I forget his name. I did an interview with him. It'll come back here in a minute. Um, he's been in the business for 30 years recruiting. And when I talked to him, he said, Dave, the only difference between me and you, and this is like 5 or 6 years ago, he said, I'm just 20 years ahead of you. So I think at the end of the day, it's interesting. This is a process oriented business of building. If you just keep swinging the bat at the plate and you scale that process to the extent that you can and stay consistent, then things should just keep getting better. Especially if you're in the right business models, which of course I'm like thoroughly in belief that the senior market is where the money's at for the next 10, 20 years. It is the best long-term play, I'm convinced of, selling final expense, Medicare, annuities. I also think ACA health insurance is good too. There's a new program called ICRA that's out. That's an excellent program to get into employers that we're starting to work with as well. So my job is just to basically find the markets where I think there's opportunity and stick with the ones that we have and just leverage it out. I don't really. I've kind of run an interesting business, Justin. I mean, like I said, I don't have any employees. This is always meant to be a lifestyle business for me. I want to make a lot of money and not have employees, which I've kind of sort of done.
Awesome.
My dad. I saw my dad build a business, hundreds of employees, worked 6, 7 days a week, traveled all the time, never was around his kids or family. So I never wanted to be that dad, with my kids. So I have a different business model than a lot of people, and my goals are a little different. But that's kind of the container I wrap everything around. I'm looking for growth as long as I don't have to sacrifice my family time anymore, and I can be around my kids as they grow up because life is too quick, and you don't get those years back as I experienced from growing up without my father. So yeah, it's just more of the same, man. I mean, that's kind of the
Cool.
extent of it. I'm so bullish over the next 10 years. If the economy collapses, our business is going to be great. Seniors are still
Yeah.
going to get paid. Medicare still, you're going to still get policies. People are going to run to annuities if stock market. Like, how could you go wrong as long as you have the right
Yeah, literally.
arrangement, partnerships? So it's just doing what I do, basically.
Cool, man. And it's funny. One thing I've noticed is that I'm sure when you started, you put a lot of time, energy, and effort, probably more time and money into it than you do now, maybe. At least I've noticed that with me. Like in the beginning, building, it was like nitty gritty involved in like the day to day stuff all the time. And then now that I've kind of scaled up a little bit and I have like a layer of leaders,
Right.
I've gotten more time from that time investment in. So for any of you guys watching this who are
Right.
like, oh man, if you do it right, you don't have to be 70 hours a week working. Like Rory Doherty, who owns Senior Life Services, he's been selling life insurance for 45 years. Extremely successful gentleman, and he said, he's like, my secret wasn't anything. I mean, he's like, I
Right.
never worked weekends. I just worked 10 hours a day, Monday through Friday, He was at all his kids' sports games. He, brought his kids to school. Like he was, home for dinner, like everything. He's like, I just worked 50 hours a week, and I was robotic for like
Yeah.
decades, and then that ended up yielding it. So, guys, a lot of it comes down to consistency too. And over time, as you grow, you may notice that you have some of that time come back to you there.
Yeah, and the funny thing too, I'm sure you see this. You're probably a natural optimist. I mean, anybody who's successful in life, they see opportunity, right? It's distinct. Now you kind of, it's a first world problem. It's like you have all these opportunities presented to you. At least that's been my experience. Probably yours too. Is you've rise through the echelons and you've done well in life, and it becomes a matter of like I have this limited amount of time. Where do I give this time that will produce for me an ample return without sacrificing the existing business? That's kind of been something I've been into. Like I've played with it over and over again, getting into real estate or some other business model. But it's like I got to start over in a sense from there because I don't have an existing knowledge base, and there's just like anything, there's a learning curve that you got to go through and a higher risk element. So it's like for me, it's like staying focused is a big thing. In light of all the opportunity that's out there, figuring out where your lane is, and then just again squeezing all you can out of it. And I go back to FFL and Sean, like there's your example of like, look at the business they've built. If you're trying to scale and make a lot of money, like they've paved the way already. We know what's possible or what is possible with enough scale and process to recruit. Like you could stay in this business doing just this, and the outcome is just incredible. Is really the sky is the limit.
Yeah, no, it is, man. I noticed that a lot for new agents. I think scheduling has a big, at least with people I've seen, like just being consistent, schedule-wise is important, kind of what we discussed. What type of schedule do you recommend for new agents to follow coming into the business to make sure that they have their appointments booked, or if they're, I don't know how much you do telesales, but if they, they're on the phone. But either way, it just comes down to like kind of scheduling commitment. So what type of I guess schedule do you recommend for people to take on in the business if you train on that at all?
Well, one thing I would ask for people to visualize here, because it helps kind of accept this, is like I was broke. I had like $90 in my bank account when I failed out of this business, and where I'm at 10 years from then is just incredible. The freedom, the money, the position I'm in life. And if you ask me now, what would I have done to get to this? I would have done anything. I would have done everything, because you don't get this in most contexts of life, right? So it's really what won't you do to get to the top, because it's right there in front of you if you'll just do it. And what does that require? It doesn't require some sort of magic secret sauce. I mean, you got to have a sales marketing system, but there's a lot of good organizations out there that can show you the way. But what you really need is it's that consistency, man. It's if you have to execute and perform and stay consistent despite evidence otherwise, right? Mm-hmm. Like your family won't support you. Nobody will support you. Think you're crazy, right? So nobody supported me. But I knew better. I was a leader. I knew what I could envision what could be if I just had the faith and took the leap of faith. So for me to answer that question, I mean, as many hours as you can. Now, I know that's kind of big picture. What do you do within those hours? Sure. Sunrise to sunset, see the people, man. Like from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. when I was in the field, it was seeing prospects. It wasn't taking a lunch for 2 hours. It wasn't going to the park, wasting time. I was seeing the people, and I was doing as much as I could. I was running against the clock to get in front of prospects and close them. You only have so much time in this earth to do that. And I would do that as much as I could for the time I was in the field. And for new agents, you should, as much as you can. Again, visualize what it could be and what your life really could be. There's $1 million opportunities in this business, ladies and gentlemen, selling or agency building. And that's income annually. What would you do to get that? I mean, for me, it's completely dedicate everything. Yes, that's a sacrifice. Yes, there's a price to pay. But it's not forever. It's for a couple of years. That's what
it's cheaper than the price you pay if you don't do it.
Yeah, nothing's worse than life than regret. Man, I had my opportunity, I didn't do it. That sucks. At least you could go out in a blaze of glory and have some respect.
Yeah. Exactly, man. So moving into the later parts of the 2020s, now 2023, and forward, short term, I guess, I want to ask you maybe a little bit like some marketing stuff. So from like a lead standpoint, right now, if someone's working face to face appointments, what lead type do you recommend for as the like premier lead for someone to get?
So I still think direct mail is king. It's gotten harder and more expensive, but I still think that the business model still works. Get fixed price leads. Don't take on the risk of a low response rate. There are vendors out there who will do it. There are agencies out there who will do it. To me, that's where you want to be. Again, if we all agree here that if you want the best chance of success, you would get all the edges in your favor. You'd get the best training, the best support, the best carriers. You should want the best leads. So for me, it's still direct mail. Now, I think Facebook leads work fine too. You got to buy a little bit more to make up for the lower quality, generally speaking. And this would be face to face. Justin, just clarifying for everybody else here.
Yes, face to face.
Telesales to me, it's interchangeable. If you do digital leads, if you do outbound, do digital leads, but do them in high volume. I don't think there's a magical digital lead that's better, unless you've got an organic website that generates like just a completely different lead. That's an exception. But you got to buy a lot of leads. I tell my agents who buy leads, you got to get 100 leads a week plus if you're full time. Maybe not right away, but pretty quickly. And then some kind of quality inbound lead, whether it's a warm transfer or a good TV lead vendor. You can do well with those two.
Awesome, cool. And moving into the future, what do you think of maybe any other outlets that leads would maybe like, I don't know. I'm always trying to think forward, right? Like different developing social medias. Like I think maybe YouTube will start to take a larger presence if the market switches there. Maybe different television outlet like that, like the Hulu, Netflix type of things, or things like that. Like have you thought anything about that, like in the future where marketing may go?
I think right now I've been trying to get some of the affiliate people I work with to create a YouTube course. I think there's some opportunity there. I've actually got some organic content on YouTube that's consumer facing, so not recruiting agents, but like trying to sell seniors, and I get leads from it. It works. It's good. It's not a lot, but I think there's something there. Is it to the extent that I don't know, direct mail or no? But I think it's good. I think there's something there. But yeah, I figured Hulu and Netflix, any of those platforms, I think you're going to see some experimentation there. I think we're going to be for the foreseeable future all up in Facebook for the most part. That's where a lot of the interest still lies, as far as lead gen goes digitally.
Cool, man. Yeah, I started a YouTube ad campaign. I've gotten some good results on it from some call-ins directly from the ad, from the landing page. Click to call in. Just kind of fiddling with it a little bit to see, where, kind of trying to tweak it and optimize it. So if you ever wanted, I don't know if you've ever done that. If you ever wanted, I can show you. I can screen share with you, kind of show you what I have as a video, and you can take that however you'd like. So cool, man. All right, so guys, if anybody watching this wants to work with David, how can someone reach out to you if they want to get in touch with you, man, and work with you?
Probably best thing to do is go on to YouTube, put in David Duford, go down the black hole of videos that I have, and then at some point you'll emerge and think either what we do is great or not. And if it is, you can go to davidduford.com/FAQ. I've put together a big compendium of information on joining my agency for selling final expense, Medicare annuities, or ACA. That'll help you really decide if what we do is a good fit or not. So go there if you like.
Okay, cool, awesome. Well, Dave, do you have anything else that you would like to add for people on here, or anything that you anything that on your end? I just have one or two more questions for you, but anything that's come up through your mind throughout this that you'd want to add in there?
No, keep going. No, ask your questions.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, cool. Now, how do you tell your agent, say they're calling to set an appointment, right? And they call the lead, and they say, I never worked direct mail. Okay, I had,
really?
had some older ones. Yeah, because I learned how to run Facebook ads like 4 years ago when they were like $1 a lead.
Oh, the glory days, man! They were good back then for sure.
So it was like, it was like it was a no brainer. But so someone calls a lead, in the leads, and the person says, I already have insurance, not interested. How would you recommend any of our viewers here call in to set appointments and book appointments that way? How would you recommend that they handle that?
Okay. So I use the terminology, the ask method. Okay. The idea here, first of all, understand, I like teaching the why somebody says that. I think you get better compliance with actually following the script. First of all, it took me a long time to realize this. You can't trust what people say, right? They're saying stuff that may or may not be true. It could be a lie. It could not be. It could be just reactive. But we can't trust it to be the gospel truth. What people are feeling underlying this, whatever it is, I'm not interested, I'm busy, already got life insurance. It's just kind of a pushback. It's resistance to a salesperson coming to try to sell them something, right?
Yeah.
So what we have to speak to is to lower that defense that you're a stranger and you're there to sell them something and take a bunch of time, right? So we try to address that in the rebuttal. So the ask method is answering the objection, which is as simple as saying, hey, it's okay, no problem. And then the S in ask is selling the appointment. We don't sell the product, we sell the appointment, right? It's quick and casual, there's no obligation. I'm not asking for your money, right? We're putting them at ease that we're just doing our job to deliver the information. And then the close is the closing question. This is the most common mistake. Most agents forget to close, especially on multiple rebuttals. You have to close every single time when you answer an objection. And the close is always a yes or yes statement or question. You do not want to give your client the opportunity or the option of a no. For example, if you say, can I come over at 10 tomorrow? What's the answer they're going to say? No, because you gave the option to them. The better option or better way to state it is, can I come at 10 o'clock or does 2 work better? Because now what you've done is the questioner has framed the question with 2 options in the box where it's a yes or a yes. You've assumed you're coming, but what time am I coming? So you'll get more appointments booked and you get a sense of momentum from a verbal strategy like that. So all together, what the script sounds like, if somebody says, I already got life insurance, my response is, no problem. All I need is 5 minutes to do my job and deliver the information you requested. What you do with it's up to you. Why don't I come over at 10 o'clock or does 2 work better? That's it. And I basically say that for everything. Not interested. I'm broke. I'm busy. It really works for everything. And I look at this. I take jujitsu. And one of the things we do in jiu-jitsu is we try to find movement patterns that are fundamental. We don't do like 20 different moves. We do like 3. And we get really good at those 3 because when you're in a fight, right, like all your training, just cut it in half, right? Because in the moment where you're trying to survive and dodge punches and you know what the hell else is going on, you're going to relate, you know, you're going to have a limited bandwidth of what you can do. But I'd rather have 3 moves I practice 1,000 times each than 1,000 moves I practice 3 times each, right? So that's how I look at this execution of this rebuttal script. It works for everything, and it helps the agent remember it and perform it better because it's the same no matter what.
Dude, that's awesome because I pretty much say the same thing for on the phone telesales because all I do is telesales now. So I say the same thing. If someone's like, I already have insurance, hey, no worries. You know, most people I speak with do. They find this information really valuable. I keep going. Or if they're like not interested, say, hey, no worries.
Do you ask like a question after that to kind of get them back on?
Typically, yeah. So what I'll do is I'll either ask them, I'll like to ask them something about the lead. So say, hey, most people I speak with find this information really valuable. Say, and then I look like while it's dialing at something on the lead card that I can like relate to right away or like say something about or ask a question about. So like maybe they have the street name reminds me of something funny, or maybe like their beneficiary name is on there and then you can ask a question about that person. Like, oh, I see you're over there in Tampa. Does your daughter live there too? You mentioned she'd be the beneficiary. It's like anything like that, just any type of question on the lead form to try to get their mind off that and start thinking about something more familiar to them. So
Gotcha.
yeah. So sometimes I'll just keep going, but most of the time I'll say that and then just go to something that's on the lead form more familiar.
Yeah.
You know about there. So it's the same thing. I answer. I a lot of times I'll put them at ease too and say, look, my job is to get you this information in the shortest amount of time possible, and you can do whatever you want with it. I'm not asking you to make any changes to what you have now, and then
Right.
just keep going through it. On the phone too, for telesales, tone is, I feel, very important because you're setting the appointment guys. So what I've heard is for like setting the appointment face to face, and when I did it, it was kind of more like delivery guy type tone that I was instructed on. What type of tone do you recommend that agents take on for?
So there's two different tonalities: appointment setting or telesales. I look at them equally the same, at least on the front end, starting the call, telesales, or booking the appointment face to face. You either have like the clinical, no bedside manner doctor approach, like I'm just coming over to do my job. It's my job. It's my job. Like that's the mentality you have. I'm just doing my job, right? And it's not monotonous, but it's just direct, right? Or you can take a little enthusiasm, obviously not off the deep end, right? But I think a little, what we call a little sham wow in the tone's not bad. You don't want to be too cheesy about it, but I think that gets people's attention. Maybe it disarms them a little bit. It just depends on the personality, but either of those are fine with me. Again, as long as you have presence on the phone, one of those will work. It's just kind of matching it to what your disposition is, I think.
Okay, cool. And like when people are booking appointments, how many do you recommend that they have set a day? Like if you were had like a template, like, hey, I know as many as possible, but do you ever recommend like, hey, you want to have a minimum of like 10 appointments a day or something like that you recommend?
Yeah, face to face. So it depends. So as a new agent, maybe book an appointment every 90 minutes. I think starting at, if you want to start at 8 in the morning, that works. 9 or 10, whatever your schedule is. And just try to fill it up for the amount of time that you have, right? Try to fill as much up as you can. Probably an hour and a half is going to be about 6 to 8 appointments for the average agent to book a full day, if you will. As time progresses, as you know, you get better at this. You can qualify faster. You can get out of doors faster because they're not good fits. So at some point, you'll set them every 45 minutes, and you can do 15 appointments a day. That would be like the ultimate goal.
Oh, wow. Cool. So how do you have people how do you recommend people to, because where I am in South Florida, part of the reason I went telesales is because it's just such a large area, and it was the distances are pretty significant with traffic. Having that 45 minutes between appointments was it would be 40 minutes to go to the next appointment. And maybe I just didn't get good enough at organizing my schedule that way. But how do you recommend people organize their appointments so that they can go a sensible loop? And also, do you recommend them to double book ever, anticipating a no-show?
Sure. So I think part of this, you said you did Facebook leads, right?
Yeah.
I would imagine there's a density issue more so with Facebook than direct mail. I can drop direct mail, and this is one of the advantages of direct mail face-to-face.
Yeah.
Per zip code, you're going to get more direct mail out of it than Facebook because you got a radius around the percentage. So that's part of that deal. I remember running. This is a number of years ago. I was running Facebook leads, and it took me 15 hours to do like 10 appointments, and I think I drove like 300 miles, whole Northeast Georgia. Right? They were good leads. I closed a lot of them, but it was I was sometimes an hour to hour and a half to the next appointment. So I totally understand. So for me, it's just like the assumption is we're doing direct mail. That's even in rural areas, you're going to get a lot of replies back and be able to set a lot of appointments. So that's probably what was best responsible for my ability to and what we teach to book a ton of appointments at scale.
I never even thought about that. The second you said that, I had that aha moment, boom.
Yeah. That's probably the biggest weakness face to face. But Facebook leads can be very good. But that is an issue, especially very populated areas or very rural areas, because you're just driving all over the place. A lot of windshield time.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, man. And I was just thinking of, what was I just thinking of? I had a question built off that. I'm going to have some dead space here, and I'll edit it out.
It's okay.
Just mark the times at 45 and dead space. Oh, yeah, okay. So it was just a comment I was gonna have on it, that direct mail leads, typically for what you see, the cost per lead is higher, which I think turns a lot of new agents away from buying them. But what you guys got to focus on is that cost per lead does not equal cost per acquisition.
Yeah.
So what we mean by that is, who cares what the lead costs? If a lead costs $150, but you're guaranteed a sale every single lead, it's like, here's my credit card, give me as many as you can
Yeah.
possibly give me. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of the focus. So guys, if you're a new agent, think of the best lead. Ramiz Hakim said this. He said the best lead is the cheapest lead is the most expensive lead, because
Right.
the cheapest lead makes it actually more money to acquire that. So Dave, we're going to wrap this up here, man. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Any questions for me, or any comments for the audience or anything like that?
No, thanks so much for having me on, and keep up the good work, man. Just do more videos. You need to do more.
I appreciate it, man. I will. I'll get the volume up. Thank you. I got
Very
a
good.
lot
Once
of
a day.
catching up to do. Once a
All right.
day? Awesome.
That's right,
All
at
right.
least. All right.
Okay, cool.